Hey, Catalyst crew. Welcome to Catalyst Corner, episode 64. It's Thursday, so we've got Jim F0123 Art on with us, and, yeah, let's get into it. How you doing, Jim?
I am doing okay. Happy Shark Week to you.
Yeah, it's Shark Week.
Shark Week
My
here,
goodness. Shark, terrifying.
Yeah.
Got the Meg 2 coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you do like Discovery? You know, you get on Zaslav and watch a little bit of Shark Week?
I do. I'm going to say this, and it's not to pat myself on the back or anything like this, but I've been watching Shark Week since inception, right?
Oh, you're a bit of a hipster when it comes to
right.
Shark Week.
So I remember back in the early 90s, me, my buddy, and one guy that we used to work with who looked like Robin Williams were the only ones that ever talked about Shark Week,
Yeah,
right?
people
No
looked like
one
you were nuts.
cared.
They didn't know.
Right. Didn't care,
Yep.
weren't interested,
Yep.
and now 30 plus years later, it's a
it's an
cultural
event.
phenomenon.
Oh, it's an event.
It's amazing what it became. But yeah, I'm big time fan of Shark Week.
I'm with you on that
Yeah.
one. I do love
Absolutely.
me some sharks. So I had an interesting conversation.
Okay.
I was talking to someone about, kind of the things we're doing with Catalyst and everything. And obviously San Diego Comic-Con was last week.
Right.
And they asked me, who's my guy? Like, if I had to pick one person, who I'm trying to, at least emulate a bit.
Sure.
Obviously, I don't have any, illusions of getting to this level, and I said probably Todd McFarlane.
Sure, of
I
course.
think he's, I don't know. There's just something so, he just really speaks to me,
Right.
Just the fact that he got in on talent, right, and basically told the powers that be to go fuck themselves, time and time again.
Todd McFarlane is a guy that bet on himself and won.
Right. And we don't have a ton of we're what you call bootstrapping it.
Right.
So I kind of I feel that.
Yeah, no, McFarlane was,
obviously, he's an icon. I'm not saying
Right. But McFarlane was a guy that, obviously could draw extremely well.
Yeah.
And then he, tried his hand in writing on top of it, and the sales were there. The sales followed him, and he wanted a bigger piece of the pie. And when, they said no, he's like, okay, well, I'm going to do it myself. And,
but that's
it became an empire.
That's his mantra.
Yeah.
Right? Like, when they couldn't make action figures that he liked, he was like, all right, I'll just do it myself.
Right. Exactly. And I mean, people have followed the trend, and there's been some successes as well. I think Ethan Van Sciver is doing pretty well.
Yes,
in that
he's a little bit crazier, but Cyberfrog does well.
But he decided to bet on himself,
Right.
and now he has his own action figures and his own toy line.
He's turned it into something,
right, and he's got merchandise. So I mean, there are people that have gone that route.
It's very refreshing to see.
Yes, absolutely.
So that was kind of that, because they would bring up, obviously from an artistic standpoint, he's not the best. I would say probably for me, a Libra Mejo or even a Greg Capullo, I think is better.
Sure. I mean, but that, again, there's subjectivity,
Right,
obviously.
right.
So, I mean, again, there's a tremendous amount of artists that you like, and for different reasons.
But it's interesting because I've been watching some clips with him because he went, he's still doing it.
Yep.
And it was really funny because they were asking him about just the whole thing, right? And he said this line that really got me, and it was just, I learned business just so I could push, all I want to do is push my art. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, all right, he gets it.
Right. Exactly.
He's like, he goes, I have I don't have to worry about money. I don't have to worry about my family. Nobody has anything over me.
Right.
So all I want to do is push art, and they don't talk to you unless they know you're successful. So I had to be successful. And I'm like, this guy is a lunatic.
He is. But that's...
His A to B is right, but
Right.
it's just such an obscure thought process.
Yeah. But he, again, he had a vision.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to allow anybody to get in the way of that vision. And when the big boys tried to, he's like, yeah, you know what? I'll start my own company and compete against you. And he did it successfully.
Yeah, stole a bunch of talent.
Yep.
Jim Lee went with him. He went back. He went back, obviously, but even still, there's no bad blood or anything.
No, but at that time, the group that went were
it was
the
superstars.
They were the superstar artists of that time.
I mean, you're talking about the best of the best.
Right, absolutely.
I don't know. It's just, it brought it back up just because, like, he's always been my guy.
Sure.
But it's just, he was at San Diego. He was pushing,
but he still cares. It's still the passion he still has.
That's what
the
it is.
Same.
He loves it,
right?
And that's what makes him different.
He's never lost sight of the reason he did this in the first place.
No, he's an incredible human being.
He is, absolutely.
So that's who I gave them.
For sure.
We got some more Mortal Kombat stuff, obviously.
Yep.
So that's looking good.
Yeah,
the
very
fellas
good.
are doing a good job with that.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get into the episode a little bit.
Okay.
So, aliens.
Aliens are around, found, discovered.
Here's the thing. Nobody cares.
No.
They're just like, I got bills.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing is, though, if you said to me straight face 10 years ago, there's going to be a government hearing where members of Congress grill a high-ranking, he was in the military for a while.
Right.
And he's just going to be like, yeah, aliens are real.
Yeah.
I would have said to you, you are out of your fucking mind.
Yeah. Well,
and now I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna talk about, let's raise taxes and the alien discovery bill. We're gonna have to do that all in one.
Like, it's like, hey, by the way, we're gonna raise the interest rates one more time. Oh, but aliens are real, and it's like, yeah, but that fucking first thing.
Yeah. Can we go back to that first thing again?
Listen, unless fucking Zoran is coming down,
right?
Yeah.
Hey, they're there. If you want to go see them,
what a it's almost comical that the government thought, like, maybe I don't know if they thought that people were gonna like lose their minds.
Sure.
Like, nobody even fucking cared. Yeah. They were just like, oh yeah, all right.
Yeah. Aliens, them again. Yeah. They're back.
We kind of figured.
Yeah.
Like, what that to me is the funniest, saddest thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You make, this guy was reacting like this should have been the biggest scoop that was ever delivered, and people were like, yeah, cool. Aliens. Yay. Let's move on.
Yeah, like, are they coming? Are they here?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it,
Let us know when you get more info.
When the mothership actually touches down, we'll worry about it then. Right now, I got to fucking go pay, J.P. Morgan.
Right. Exactly.
Just wild, though.
Yeah, it is wild.
So, there's been some controversy about the Sound of Freedom.
Yes.
So, apparently, it's not doing well. I suppose you can still argue it's doing good because it's making the money.
Well, it's making a lot of money.
But it's Astroturf.
Sure.
So no one's going.
Yeah.
So basically, you have these rich people buying out theaters that are empty.
Yeah. The Captain Marvel effect.
Right. But here's my point, because we're very, very harsh on Disney. But I'm going to come out and say, fuck Sound of Freedom, because if it was good, people would go see it. But by you astroturfing it, just because you're making the numbers look good, it's garbage. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And shame on you for doing that.
Yeah, I think this will be one of those ones where when it comes out on demand, people then and it's free to watch. People will then watch it or not, and you'll get a true sense of, do people really like this movie or not?
I think the thing of it is, right, is that if you look at the reviews, it doesn't really rate that high.
No.
And it didn't make sense because it was bringing in a lot of cash, right? But if I was on TikTok the other day and I got an ad that said, go see The Sound of Freedom for free. Like, put your email in and we'll send you tickets. And it's like, they're astroturfing. Nobody wants to see this movie, but they're buying the theaters out just to make it seem like...
Yeah. And the thing is...
It's the same thing that Disney did with that that Clyde character.
Right.
Remember they did the TikTok and they were like, when the audience sees Clyde, and they used the fake cheers.
Right.
It's the same fucking thing.
And the thing is, they knew that based upon a $14.5 million budget, it's not going to take much to make this a profitable movie.
I guess my point to it all, right, is that I really and truly hope that this is not the direction we're going in, as far as you make a shitty movie, but you end up lying and astroturfing it and being like, no, it was a great success. Captain Marvel, this.
I think you will when you don't have any competition. And you know what I mean? Like,
but
yes,
they did have competition when it came out. It was Indiana Jones.
Yeah, like I said, there was no competition at the time it came out, so they were able to do this.
Right. But
if this was to come out like these last few weeks, no, you wouldn't have been able to do that.
I got to tell you. So I haven't seen. I really don't have a lot of interest in Oppenheimer.
No, nor do I.
I heard it's great.
Yeah, sure.
I heard the acting is great. I've seen video footage of the atomic bomb.
As have I.
I've done research on it because it's one of those things that's a little bit hard for me to grasp. So I had to learn about it.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
So it's like I don't know that I would get a lot out of sitting through it, and I'm not going to the theater, so
I'm not. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Going to be lost.
That wouldn't be a movie that would drag me to go to the theaters at all.
And I mean, I guess like the big payoff would just be when they test the bomb, right?
Which again, we've seen the footage already,
right? And I've seen Oppenheimer do the speech. I am become death. Like I've seen that already.
Right. Exactly.
Like so to me, it's not interesting enough. Even though Christopher Nolan is a master, it's not interesting enough to get me to get me to even watch it when it comes out.
Sure,
honestly.
No, and I agree with you.
Now, on the other hand,
yes,
Barbie is
killing it.
I heard it is hilarious. Yeah. I hear there's a lot of existentialism in it, and I'm going, that's perfect.
Right.
That's the only way you can go at it is insanity, existentialism, and humor.
Right. But so here's my take on this, right?
Yeah.
So obviously we're hearing the usual. It's extremely woke. It's very feminist.
It's fucking
driven.
Barbie.
Makes fun of men.
Yeah.
All the talking points that you hear.
Right.
Here's my problem with all that.
Okay.
This is a female-centric.
Yeah.
But from day one, this is for women, right? It's never been for men. So this isn't tearing down Luke Skywalker. This isn't tearing down Indiana Jones so the woman could, take their place and be better than them from day one. Barbie is the star from day one.
Right.
She's always been the star.
And as it should be.
Right. Ken is a secondary figure.
Now, just to put a pin in that for a minute, for the women that listen and think that, we swing too far to the right or whatever, I want you to, if you saw Barbie and you liked it, I want you to imagine that instead of Barbie being the main character, Ken came out and ended up going, I'm the best.
Right.
And he ends up taking over the show, and we find out that Barbie is nothing.
Right.
That is what's been going on with our heroes over the past 5 years.
Right.
So if that doesn't sit right with you, if that doesn't sound good, that's kind of where we're coming from with the assassination of our, Luke.
Exactly.
Indy.
But that's not what this movie is.
No.
This movie is a movie for, but again, she's always been a feminist. She's always been again, she's been a doctor, a lawyer,
it's girl power.
Right. But that's what it's been from day one.
Right.
Look, little boys typically don't play with Ken dolls.
No.
They're there just like Tila is there in He-Man.
It's not the target audience.
No.
And you saw it. Like, people were wearing pink to the theater and stuff.
And so for Barbie to be the lead, and even if she is shitting on men, this is made for that audience to do that.
But here's the thing. I don't even... So, from the clips and stuff that I've seen, and I'm going to watch it.
Sure.
I don't think it's so much that they're, shitting on men, more so that it's like Ken is Ken.
Right.
He's just a secondary.
No.
Like, he doesn't exist without Barbie.
But what I'm saying is, even if that were the case, so what? This movie is intended for that crowd to do that.
Right.
It's not made for you and I.
Right.
Okay, we can go and we can enjoy it or not go and not enjoy it.
But
it's not made for us.
But the thing is, I'm more than willing to go.
Sure.
And watch them shit on men because I'm just like, yeah, of course. Like, Ken's a fucking cuck. Of course he is.
But he is. That's it. He is, and he has been from creation.
Right. And that's enjoyable to me because guess what? You're honoring the character. You're playing him right.
Right.
So, even if it's quote-unquote anti-male, if you're doing it right, it's funny.
But it's anti-male in a woman's world from the beginning of inception.
Right. It's not like this came out of nowhere.
Right. So, again, I have no problem, even if it is a girl power, ultra-feminist. This is what it's made to be for that audience.
Right. From the beginning.
It's not, you are not deconstructing the hero that we all love, and you just came out of nowhere with no hero's journey and are automatically better. That's not what this is.
See, but that's the other half. I think you nailed it there because it's not even just that they're deconstructing our heroes, right? Because there is other media where heroes get taken down and stuff.
Sure.
There's no hero journey.
No.
And without a hero's journey, there's no attachment to the character.
Right.
I don't know if you're familiar with like My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
So, you had basically your Superman All Might, right? And he passes the power on to the kid.
Right.
But the whole fucking story is his journey to get to the degree that All Might was.
Right, exactly.
That's the point of it. It's not that, it's time for Luke or Indy to pass the torch or anything. It's that, Rey comes in and she's better than Luke. Helena Shaw comes in and she's better than Indy.
Right.
And it's just like, but there's no hero journey. You just brought a character out.
You just came out of nowhere, and we, so all of the decades that these people have been doing it is meaningless.
And think about it like this too, right? The only time shit like that happens is when the big guy comes lumbering out and then he has to fight the main character and he loses because that's the main it's the main character story.
Right.
You can't just bring out, this MacGuffin with no history and just be like, well, this is what we have.
No,
now.
exactly. And so for anybody that has a problem with Barbie for, taking
being
down
Barbie.
For taking down the patriarchy, because that I guess was a word that was used extensively in the movie.
I think they actually but is that just meta humor?
It is, but it's like, yes, absolutely.
Right, because that's what they were always about. I mean, the toys that made us, right? I don't. If you guys haven't seen that, it's on now.
The greatest.
And they have a Barbie episode.
Right, absolutely they do.
And they cover this shit. They were just like, look, there was He-Man, there was all this G.I. Joe and all that shit, and like we needed something for little girls.
Specifically for girls. It's if boys want to play with, but at the time that these things came out, little boys didn't play with this. You made Ken as because you wanted the romance of the situation.
Right. It wasn't
but
like
that
it wasn't
was
like
it.
Ken was a dude.
No,
it was just like oh yeah, here's Barbie in her dream house in her Corvette.
Ken's an accessory,
and there's Ken.
He's an accessory to Barbie. That's all he is. And in this movie, that's what he is.
Right.
And so again, it's true to what it is,
and it works.
Right, absolutely.
So that's the thing is I know it's difficult because there's a lot of people out there saying very similar things to what we say, but then they go, and they're like, well, it's because of the Democrats, and it's like, you're a fucking idiot. It has nothing to do with that.
No,
you and I are focusing on the art, the storytelling, things of that nature. If it works, a la Barbie, it works.
Right. And again, you're staying true to what Barbie is.
Right.
You're not, this isn't a wholesale change. Like Barbie was never this for the last 50 years. Then where did this come out of?
It's like, she was always this, like, she was the accessory, No, That's not what it was.
Yeah.
She was the doctor. She was the lawyer. She had the dream house. And then there's Ken.
Right. She was the star.
Right.
From day one.
Right.
Always has been, always will be. And in this movie, that's who she is. What's wrong with that?
It's very refreshing because we have just... the thing is that, you know, obviously Disney owns a huge chunk of the market, which I think is terrible.
Right.
And we've just watched shit show after shit show every week, you know?
Yep.
And it's like, finally, we get a break from Disney and some other companies get to put some stuff out, and it feels almost like there's a little bit of magic in the movies again.
Right.
You know, people are loving Oppenheimer, so good job.
Yeah.
People are loving Barbie. And again, two different crowds.
Yeah.
But who?
And you know, and Mission Impossible 7 isn't doing great, but it's doing okay. It's out there. It's
right. But
people are enjoying that, are seeing it.
7. You know, you can't expect Mission Impossible 7 to do as good as something like Barbie or Oppenheimer, which is brand new.
No. And you know, now we've got the Haunted Mansion about to come out this week.
Is that Disney Plus or is that theaters?
No, that's for theaters.
That's going to tank.
It's going to tank. You're going to.
And here's the thing: it's not going to tank because, you know, it's predominantly a black cast.
No.
That's not why it's going to tank. No. It has never done well.
Right.
You know, the only ride-based movie that did well for them was Pirates of the Caribbean, and that was only because of the cast.
Right, and Haunted Mansion was out with Eddie Murphy that starred back in.
Yeah, that didn't do anything.
It was horrible,
either.
horrible.
Because there's no story there.
And there's no story, and there's no characters that you can attach to.
You told a pirate story. You know, you say it's based off of the ride. What the fuck does that even mean?
Right.
Like, there are pirates in the ride. You told a pirate story.
Yeah. The Pirates of the Caribbean. Okay, so we took a pirate character and threw him in the Caribbean.
Right.
And that was your ride base. And then everything else was new.
The thing is, it's the entire Caribbean. With the Haunted Mansion, you get one...
Right. One house.
Right. You can't do anything with that.
No, and, you know, to put out a horror, not that it's horror, but, you know, whatever, a Halloween style in the middle of the summer is the worst possible time to do it.
Drop that shit in September.
Right, end of September, beginning of October.
Right, when it's getting spooky.
That you might have got people just because they want to see something spooky, but in the middle of the summer,
wild.
A horrible idea.
Wild.
Yeah.
They have just, look... Let's get to our Disney segment. It wouldn't be a cast without shitting on Disney.
No, and they deserve every bit of it.
So before we get into the ales, Disney may no longer be Disney.
Right.
You know, they're talking about maybe it's going to be Apple now.
Yeah, I mean, that is the rumor, and we'll see if that ever holds true.
So Iger's contract is extended for 2 years, right? And I said to you, the damage that's been done to this organization, and now there's the writer's strike and everything, and the actor's strike, and he's an asshole. The way he went out and did that interview, and then day later was on his mega yacht, like, you deserve nothing good. You deserve nothing good in your life.
Right.
He cannot undo the damage that has been done in 2 years.
No.
He can't.
No, absolutely not.
So my theory is he's only staying to facilitate a sale at this point. Because they have, between COVID and the parks, right? Because the parks, when they're not operating, hemorrhage money. And when your movies are draining your bank account as well, even a corpo like Disney, the water runs out.
Right. And you have no fiscal responsibility. Everything that you do, whether it's Disney Plus or whether it's in the theaters, is a $200+ million budget. Like, but then you watch and you're like, well, where is that going? Because they look like shit. Like the visuals of Disney movies on both streaming and theater are awful to look at.
So I was in the forums recently, and someone who's in the industry who works in VFX basically said the reason that everything looks so bad now is is not because they're spending less on VFX, but they are giving the VFX teams zero time to do this shit. So basically, Pirates of the Caribbean with the squid guy, Davy Jones and stuff.
Yeah.
If you look at that looks fucking phenomenal, even today.
Right.
But they worked on it for months and months and months, right? James Cameron's Avatar took 10 years to do.
Right.
They're giving them weeks. They're giving them weeks to do a whole film.
Right. Well, we're in July.
Right.
Right. And between Disney Plus and the theaters, they've released 7 projects to date?
Look, I don't think mega corporations are the answer.
No.
I think when you get that large, it is impossible to manage.
Sure,
and
absolutely
then what ends up happening is, there's 7 fucking Disney properties, but they all suck.
Right, but the problem is that they're all coming out relatively in the same amount of time.
But
so how can the VFX houses possibly handle that?
But here's the other half of it, right? And this has nothing to do with the agenda or anything. When you own 40% of the market, there's no competition, so there's nothing to push you to do better. So you slide into mediocrity, which is what happened with Marvel. Right? I would say the TV shows are actively bad.
They are.
The movies, at least for Phase 4, for the most part, were just mediocre. I don't know what's gonna. Obviously, I don't have a lot of faith in the Marvels.
No.
I thought
nor do they.
Right. I thought Deadpool looked good.
Yeah.
But who knows when that's coming out now? Because we're on strike.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that if they get this resolved, it'll probably still be 2024, but it'll be much later in the year.
Right. You're talking about like a October, November release instead of a May release.
Right, exactly.
And, that's a huge part of it is they were allowed, and we're seeing it now with video games too, because now Microsoft just bought Activision Blizzard, and it's like, I get it. Businesses have to grow, but these mega corporations, there's no feasible way for them to be able to release 100 quality items in 6 months.
No,
we're seeing it with Disney. They imploded.
Right, and and because there's an issue with creative at that point, because you've got too much of the corporation now getting too involved because it got too big.
Right.
So the creative end of it is now very limited to what is going to be allowed, because they have to look at the dollars, and they have to look at the budget, and they have to look at how much return they're going to get.
Right.
And creativity is going to be stifled.
The thing of it is, right, that worked 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But you've become so bureaucratic at this point, right? Everything is so sterilized,
right,
that you can see through the corporate cloth. Everything they release is so shallow,
right,
and people aren't showing up for it anymore.
Right, exactly.
The kids aren't buying into it.
No, no.
Like I said, with the Little Mermaid, I don't have kids.
Yep.
But all of my friends that have kids said, yeah, my kids thought it was okay. It was 2.5 hours. I don't have fucking time for that.
Right.
That's the point, is that if you're going to spend $200-300 million, you have to knock it out of the park. You can't spend that kind of money and do mediocre.
No, and and again, we just got finished with Secret Invasion on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it was
awful.
See, the last episode is the lowest rated.
13% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was a horrible. It's not only does it look ugly, because it looked visually ugly.
Well, they were experimenting with AI.
Right,
that's what it is, and that's why the strike happened and everything too.
But there's nothing there.
No, there's no substance at all.
And I really don't think that Kevin Feige has any plan now or vision for
I've said
what the
this
property
to you,
is.
You really had a masterpiece in that Infinity Saga.
Sure.
You really did. Nothing is going to top, even Galactus, honestly, nothing is going to top Thanos. in feel. I'm not saying in power level and all that.
Right.
But you're never gonna get that. You're never gonna get that back. You're never gonna hit a villain, even Doom. It's never gonna hit like Thanos did.
But the thing is, right, at the end of this episode, Emilia Clarke's character Gaia, right, who's a Skrull, got the powers of virtually every Avenger and all of Thanos in the Black Order. So
what?
Well, my point is, okay, so if Galactus comes, she just comes and kills Galactus.
Right.
5 seconds.
Right.
She's got every imaginable power.
Right, but the Skrulls are good guys now, too. Like, it's a whole fucking, I was excited. The first trailer looked good.
Yeah, it looked like it was going to be good.
We were going to get, like, Secret Wars and stuff. I honestly am excited for zero Marvel properties. Like I said, the Deadpool thing is an outlier.
Right.
But everything else, I know they were talking about Fantastic Four.
Sure. Yeah, at some point.
But it's so...
I have no faith.
No.
Especially because they do so terribly on the cosmic side of things. I have no faith that they're going to do a good Fantastic Four.
Here's the problem. The reason why, Avengers Alpha, right, we'll call it that, I guess, did so well is because we went from telling we met these characters, we were telling terrestrial stories for 10 years, and then you went into cosmic.
Right.
So it's like, we love these characters, even if all the movies weren't great. We love these characters, and then we can get behind, the space case.
Right.
Now you're just like, yeah, we're in space. And it's like, yeah, but I don't know any or love any of these characters. So, like, you bringing in cosmic threats, they have to be at a power level that I can't relate to. And if I don't like them already, I'm just not going to... Great.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Feige has written himself really into a corner with this whole multiverse thing.
He fell in love with his own farts, basically.
Absolutely, he did.
He, he took a lot of B and C characters and turned them into superstars. I'm not discounting that.
Sure.
But he fell in love with his own farts, and he was like, my farts are always going to smell good.
Right.
And the thing of it is like, yeah, but you can't take D and F characters and make them superstars. Right. It doesn't work.
Well, yes, but on top of that, you can't take D and F directors and think that you had A-list directors for that phase 1 through 3 that seriously helped guide you and help you along.
The Russo brothers are good at what they do.
Yeah. You had the Russo brothers. You had Jon Favreau.
Yep.
You had Joss Whedon. And even though he fell, at that time, right, you had Kenneth Branagh. You had all of these
and Kenneth
A-list.
Branagh is a fucking powerhouse when it comes to directing.
But you had A-list directors that helped you with the first 3 phases.
Right.
You didn't do it alone.
You had an all-star team.
Right.
You had an all-star cast. You had Downey Jr., in peak form.
Right.
You nailed it with Black Widow. You nailed it with everyone.
Everybody.
You picked up the slack when Rhodey, didn't work out initially.
Yep.
And that's what it was. Is there were just so many home runs. Right. And honestly, if COVID didn't happen, maybe you could have got through. There would have, still been so much momentum that maybe you could have got through it.
Maybe.
And then by the time you dropped Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom and Galactus and X-Men and all that shit, people would have been,
possibly, yeah.
But COVID basically COVID was a wall.
Right.
So the momentum stopped.
Right.
And it has never picked back up.
Right. But, what's the explanation of, when you were doing these movies originally, you had A-list directors.
Nobody wants to do Marvel movies anymore.
No, but the thing is, you had A-list directors and your budget was much smaller. Now your budgets, you have C, D, and F directors, level directors. Your budgets are skyrocketing, And of course your movies are not doing well because you don't have the talent behind the camera anymore to make up for the horrible vision that Kevin Feige has. Because, again, I give him a lot less credit than he gives himself, most certainly.
Well, the thing of it is, right, and I think this is a huge part of it, is that especially when you have A-list directors, Feige's going to have his vision. And my opinion is, I don't look at him, as anything more than a suit.
Right.
You can say he loves comics and shit, but he gives shitty notes just like any other executive would. And if you have someone that's an A-list director that has power, they can push back.
Right.
D&F directors won't.
No.
Even if they are in the right, maybe there's a C or a D director that belongs in the A-B tier, but there's no power behind them.
Right.
So he's not going to push back.
Right.
Because he's just happy to be making the Marvel movie.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin Feige to Marvel, the MCU, is like what Stan Lee did to the Marvel comics. Here's some outlines of ideas. Create my vision for me.
Right, and I'm going to take all the credit.
Right. And so that's what Kevin Feige did. It's like, hey, these are some cool comics. We should adapt them. Can you do that? Great. Let me know when you're done. Right.
But the problem is he loves Captain Marvel. No one else does.
Nope.
And he refused to listen to anyone. And
right.
The Russos have come out and said, like, we didn't even fucking want her. She wasn't supposed to be in Endgame.
Right.
And it's like, well, how was Tony getting out of that? That's what I want to see. Is like not the fucking stupid MacGuffin of her just showing up.
Right.
But, it's so disappointing especially because I love these properties.
Right, absolutely.
Superheroes, Star Wars,
it's
all
our
that
stuff,
shit.
Right.
Right. That's the shit that we go in for. It's just so disappointing because you had something great.
Right.
And then when it grew, instead of being able to pivot, we're in a swamp.
Yeah.
And it's not good swamp like Swamp Thing. It's bad swamp.
Yeah. Well, you got so big that you thought you were untouchable and that no matter what, everybody was going to just accept blindly.
And for a long time, people did.
Sure, for a while. But then the shine wore off.
Right.
And
the
people
Black Widow
were like,
movie,
it's not as good
bad,
as...
Not bad, but obviously... Canonically, it'll work.
Sure.
Right? If you're gonna rewatch, the Marvel shit, and you put it where it belongs, it works.
Sure.
But it's not enough to get you. That was what the last one before, like it was Homecoming, and then, or what was it called? Homecoming. What was the second Spider-Man?
Far From Home was the second one.
So it was Far From Home, and then that, right?
No, that came out after. I think it came out after No Way Home.
No,
I think it actually came out after. I think it was released after No Way Home. Now, canonically, obviously, it's before, but I'm saying I think the release of it was after No Way Home.
Like honestly, the last good one was No Way Home.
Right. Because No Way Home kicked off Phase 4.
Right. That was the last.
And Black Widow was in Phase 4. So I believe it was after.
That was the last good movie.
Right. Exactly. That was it. I mean,
thing is, Wakanda wasn't bad, but it was long.
Yeah.
It was very long, and Namor wasn't, the villain to end all villains or anything. Like that's what I'm saying is like when you don't have when you don't have like a Killmonger threat or a villain, that you go, oh yeah,
right. We've said this a million times, and it's worth repeating. Kevin Feige went to the 2015 through 18 comics, which did not sell for Marvel.
No, they're a terrible
way too
run.
quickly. That should have been when you wanted to get there. That should have been at least 5 more years away.
Yeah, but
we got
there. It's the same thing that DC did with Justice League.
Yeah, it was ridiculously fast.
Instead of actually letting us get to know the characters, you're like, oh yeah, and here's Justice League 1.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Blue Beetle's on track to absolutely bomb as bad as the Flash.
Worse than Flash, they're saying.
And here's the problem, right?
doesn't go anywhere.
Well, yeah, but here's the issue, right? You have a movie that you know is a dead end.
Yeah.
But the character, you're told, is not a dead end. The character itself is going to be part of the DCU going forward. Not the movie, but the character. So, again, I still think you have a dead end that this is going to flop big time. But my problem is, who gives a fuck about Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle?
Nobody cares about Jaime.
Again, you know how many characters you should have done before you ever got to Blue Beetle?
If they had any sense about them at all, they would give us either a Constantine TV show or movie. Like, if you can't do DC
but
Universe stuff,
you haven't given us Nightwing, and you're giving us Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes,
because they don't want to do Batman. That's what it is. They don't want. They don't want to lead into.
Sure, but those are your best characters. That's where your money is.
I know. I'm with you. It's the Bud Light thing.
Yeah, but even if I don't want to see Ray Fisher, you still should have done a Cyborg movie
I want to see
before
Ray
Blue Beetle.
I fucking want to see him.
No, I mean, but he has the public fight with Warner Brothers.
No, they don't want to see him. But don't get it twisted. He was fucking great in the Snyder Cut.
I'm not saying anything.
I want to see him.
I'm saying that if they can't work that out,
they won't.
And you need
that's a dead
right.
You know.
But there's no way that a Cyborg movie should not have come out prior to a Blue Beetle movie. No way.
It's so interesting. Did you see the Joker trailer?
Yes.
What'd you think?
I think it looks good.
So do I. And I got to tell you, when they first announced it, I was like, you don't make a sequel to that film.
No.
And I got to tell you, the vibe is good.
It is. And
it's a good vibe.
Right. And as long as you have announced it that it's an Elseworld,
right,
it has no bearing on the continuity of what's going on in the new DCU.
But the thing is, right,
tell those crazy ass stories.
But here's the thing: is that the way that they should be looking at this?
Mm-hmm.
Tell Elseworld tales that you can't tell in mainstream DCEU.
Right.
They will pay for DCEU.
Mm-hmm.
Joker 1 made $1 billion.
Right.
On a shoestring budget.
Exactly.
$40 million or something.
Yeah.
I can't. The Joker 2 has got to only be like 120 or something.
Yeah,
it's not much.
Yeah, it's not much.
If it goes even close to $1 billion, which again, people are hyped.
Yeah.
Then you're making elsewhere movies that can. We're getting back to that. You make these blockbusters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Off of the money that these lower budget. That was
right.
always the formula. You guys changed it up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what, and that was my point.
I think superheroes is directly responsible for that because if you look at the trajectory of it,
right,
we would get superhero movies in. There was one or two. You had X-Men and Iron Man and Hulk and all that would trickle down, and then once it became mainstream, you would get summertime superhero movies, and that was it. You would get them in the summertime. Right. They were blockbusters.
Yeah,
and now it's every 3 months.
Right.
So you went from one every now and then to summer blockbusters, which I think is the way to go.
Right.
Because, like, even Iron Man would... It's not like it was just Avengers. You would get an Iron Man movie in the summer. It's not like you would get one in May and then an Avengers in the summer. No, you go a superhero flick in the summer. That was it.
Yeah. And again, if there's... And I don't agree with 95 to 99% of what Bob Iger says, but the one thing I agree on is they need to cut content. They need to stop producing so much content to water everything down. And because I'm not of the belief that there's fatigue.
There's fatigue on this trajectory.
Right. If it was quality, the fatigue would not have set in.
You want to know why
people are tired of watching
why there's
shit.
Not fatigue? Because Werewolf by Night exists.
Right.
And that comes out, and honestly, it's the best thing I saw in Phase 4. It's the only thing I remember.
That's the only good thing that really came out of Phase 4, right. Especially on Disney+.
But that's what I'm saying is, like, it's not so much fatigue for superheroes.
No.
As it is, I've seen the trajectory that you're going in, and I don't like it.
Right, but it's not only the trajectory, it's the characters as well. I also don't like the characters that you're giving me. I'm not interested in those characters. So you can put them out, but I don't like them, and they've never been liked through the comics for the most part. So, again, the fatigue is I don't want to invest my time in these characters that don't interest me, and you're telling boring stories on top of it.
Well, it's hard to tell a good story, with a character that doesn't have good villains.
Right, and doesn't resonate with your audience.
Right.
And never has.
It's just, if you look at the superhero movies that are doing well, it's just the fan favorites.
Mm-hmm.
It's
right.
Spider-Verse,
Mm-hmm.
and now we got Kraven coming out, and I think that's going to do well. I think it's going to do well because Venom does well, but I think it's going to be as bad as Venom is.
Right. But I think that because you have that link to Spider-Man like Venom does,
it'll do well.
It'll do okay.
Now, the thing is, Venom is a different character than Kraven.
Sure, of course.
I think we got to put a distinction there. Like,
Yeah.
Venom is his own thing.
Right.
What I mean by that is that some people are buying tickets to see Venom.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But nobody's buying tickets to see, not this Kraven.
No, but I'm saying Kraven is one of those villains that people actually really like.
Yeah, I mean,
This version, no.
No, but I mean the story where he, basically becomes Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the best fucking Spider-Man art. Kraven is an incredible villain.
Right, and that's the thing. In the comics, people love him. So he's
going to be the bad guy in the game.
Right.
And he looks good.
Right. So I think that because, what Kraven means to the comics, you're going to get people to check it out just because they're curious.
Right.
I don't think
Kraven.
the movie is going to be good.
No.
But I think that it'll do okay.
You know what the
for
worst
a bad
part
movie.
about it is that at least with Venom, like Hardy, I think nailed Eddie Brock and Venom.
Mm-hmm.
I think the character, isolated from everything else, is a home run.
Sure.
With Kraven, he doesn't even have a fucking accent.
Yeah.
His dad does.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going like, here's Russell Crowe, like not phoning it in at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Aaron Taylor Johnson, who is apparently a cardboard box.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not...
why fucking cast him?
Yeah, I'm not thrilled with the way this movie looks, but I think that it'll do...
Well, and they're making him the anti-hero.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if it does Morbius numbers. I don't think it'll do Venom numbers, but I don't think it'll do Morbius.
Yeah, it's going to do better than Morbius. Yeah. But it's just bizarre. So, let's sticking on the Disney thing. Let's talk about Snow White and the Magical Creatures.
Yeah, this is. See, here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
You put out the Little Mermaid,
right?
And we can go and you could put out all your comments about racism and misogyny and all that. It didn't do well.
It didn't do well. No, it didn't do well because it was too long. You had Lin-Manuel Miranda write an hour's worth of material that was totally different from the original. Mm-hmm. So you had a clashing middle.
Right. You changed the story.
You changed the story
quite a bit.
The animals were
the CGI was awful.
Yeah, but they weren't cartoony at all.
But the thing is, stop trying to lay blame. You put out a bad movie.
Right. It's the same reason why The Lion King didn't do that well.
And now you're being told the same thing about this movie, and everybody's telling you this is going to be a massive flop for all of these same type of reasons, and you're just going to do it again.
You're just
going to do it again.
What's awesome is, so here's the thing. The girl that they have playing Snow White, even though it's well established that the whole fucking reason her name is Snow White is because her skin was as white as snow. But taking the race out of it, she's a pretty girl.
Yeah.
She's a pretty girl.
Except
Gal Gadot is fucking gorgeous. So you're going to have the most beautiful, evil queen and like a pretty girl.
Because she's pretty.
Yeah.
And then you got Gal Gadot. Who is one of the most attractive women on the planet.
Wonder Woman. Bro, you're not gonna
could you have made the worst casting choice
what's funny
ever?
Is that It is so incredible that they cast her as the evil queen.
Yeah.
Because I don't know who you could put in the role of Snow White. It has to be someone that is fairer than
Margot Robbie. The only one that could compete with Gal Gadot would be Margot Robbie. And you want that? Was that what we're doing?
Yeah, that doesn't sit right either.
But here's my big problem with this thing, though.
Yeah.
Right? So
that's a big part of it for me.
Oh, no, that definitely is. But I've got a problem with the dwarves part of it, right?
Me too.
When I was a kid, right, we watched... Right, we watched this as kids.
It came out in like the 40s, 50s, right?
No, obviously we didn't watch it then. We watched it when we were kids.
Like it's one of those things that you watched as a kid.
The dwarves were magical to us, right?
Yeah, they're like Lord of the Rings dwarves,
right? And so
nobody ever thought they were people.
No, but then you have the elite dwarf and Peter Dinklage come out and decry it for whatever reason.
You know what the problem is? Is that Peter Dinklage is a great actor.
Sure.
And he's had great success based on his talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand him saying, like, look, I'm a great actor. Like, I don't need to, like, I can do right. Like, I can be the love interest, right? And he has been.
Sure.
But the problem is you're the outlier.
Right.
It's not, like it or not all of the actors of your stature have the talent that you have.
Right. And again, he's an elite, and to just listen to the elitist and then you based your decision on that, I think was terrible.
So there's a clip going around of Piers Morgan, who I cannot stand him.
Yeah, me neither.
Here's the thing. The two people that are talking, so you have Hornswoggle from WWE, and then some blogger,
Right, yes, I've seen this.
And there's a good back and forth between them, and every time Pierce opens his mouth, it's just diarrhea, right? So I watched it, and I watched it with Partially Proficient. I said, if he would just shut the fuck up and let them talk, like, all you're supposed to do is provide the platform and then fuck away.
Exactly.
The thing of it is that when you listen to this guy, the podcaster talk, it's almost like he's just kind of fallen in love with the message. They're giving him the talking points,
right? And
he's just going to spit them back, right?
Right.
And then you have Hornswoggle, who is like, look. And again, he was in the WWE for 10 years. Like he's got some talent.
Yeah.
He's like, look. No one's casted me as a love interest.
Right.
And you can sit there from your place of privilege and say, well, that's wrong. And maybe it is. But I'm dealing with reality here. And so, yes, these are roles that we traditionally had.
Right.
And you see it with Wonka. You have Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa.
Right.
And it's just like, but you're taking... money out of the, you're taking food out of the mouths of the regular actors.
Right. And what troubles me really, what Dinklage said was, we're living in caves. And first of all, that's untrue. Because they didn't live in caves. They lived in a house and worked in a cave.
Just to be absolutely clear.
No, both.
Queer and clear. Dwarves are based off of Norse mythology.
Right.
Okay? This is not like, people being problematic back in the 30s trying to explain dwarfism.
Right.
No. This was a fucking thing.
Right.
These are mythological creatures that live underground that work in the mines.
Right.
You see it in Lord of the Rings. You see it in tons of high fantasy.
But here's the thing. So even if that were true, that they lived in caves, with all the fucking changes that you make, you couldn't have made a change where they don't live in caves.
They don't live in caves. They live in the fucking hut.
No, they don't anyway. It was a wrong statement. But even if it was true, then just change that. Then change it so they don't live in caves.
Right, that's the change you can make to make it work.
Right. And then, but for you to take work away from all of these dwarf actors, stuntmen, people that aren't getting work.
Take a step back on that, right? Nobody wants to see Snow White and the 7 magical creatures.
No one does.
Like, no one is signing up for that because even little kids today have seen Snow White and the Seven
Right,
Dwarfs.
absolutely.
And they're expecting to see
Dwarfs.
7 dwarfs.
Right. And the thing is, the pictures came out, right? And it's the 7 check boxes.
But here's
it's the 7 fucking check boxes.
Here's the thing. The guys that played the dwarves in The Hobbit were normal-sized guys. They made them look like dwarves.
Sure, you could do that, too.
Went that route.
Right.
No. You don't even have the gumption to do that.
Right. You could have done either way. You could have either hired actual dwarves and give them work.
That's how it should have went.
Which it should have went that way.
Because then you get a big pool of actors, right? And then maybe we get 2 or 3 Peter Dinklages out of the 7, or 1 or 2 Peter Dinklage. Right. Not him per se, but like someone of his caliber.
Right. But I'm saying if you hired 7 actors, and let's say 3 stuntmen and 2 body doubles, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say there's 10 dwarf actors. You think that they're going to give a shit if Peter Dinklage comes out and says any complaint? They're all going to say, "Go fuck yourself, Peter Dinklage. Who the fuck are you to take away our livelihood? You won. You made it. You're an elite." And you're going to sit there on your high horse and tell us that we shouldn't get work?
Take it even a step further, right? There's nothing in the movie that, like, is derogatory towards the dwarves.
No,
it's not like, oh, look at these small fucks.
Right.
No, it's nothing like that.
No, they are shown in
it would be like
respect.
Look,
they're shown
like
in a very
fairy,
good light.
Right? It's like a fae. Like it's not a real creature.
Right. But there has never ever been anything. Now you could say, dopey, whatever. But so what? That's just, again, it doesn't have.
Maybe you get someone, with Down syndrome to play the role, like they did in the Lost Boys.
Sure, you could do that as well. I'm just saying that. Okay, you made a decision to not do that for whatever reason, but then you show these fucking 7 fucks. And the way you have them look, and every checkbox, every diversity has got to be accounted for. And it's like, again, you look at that, and now you've been destroyed on the internet once again.
So the thing is, right, for the actress who's playing Snow White, I think as far as it all goes, you probably should have got someone of very fair skin.
You absolutely should have.
Now, that being said, that to me is not a deal breaker.
No.
Casting Gal Gadot as the Queen.
That was a mistake. That's a big mistake.
That's trending in the wrong direction. And that makes me go, there is no way I'm going to root for Snow White.
Right.
You couldn't put someone that is a Snow White-esque character in that role that would make me root against Gal Gadot.
Right.
There's no one.
No. But once again, you're showing something that everybody was like, we're so tired of your soulless remakes.
But if you listen to you listen to the interviews and shit, it's just the same. It's the same fucking thing. And then you have Gal Gadot like trying not to be disgusted by it, and it's just, we're changing the story. It's not so much about finding her prince; it's about her taking ownership and becoming a leader. And it's like, okay. That's the only story you've been telling for the past 5 years. Like that, it's good. We want women as leaders, but that fucking story cannot be the only story that you tell over and over and over and over again.
Right, exactly. And the thing is that, and it's fine if you want to tell that story, but not in these type of movies.
No,
these movies are not designed for that.
It is fine if you want to tell that story, but you got to tell other stories too,
right?
Because we get bored if you keep telling the same story over and over. All you're doing is changing the setting.
Right, but these stories are the ones that should be the other stories you tell. These should not be the same story. These should be different stories. And if you want to make other movies yourself, not recreating classics.
Barbie is knocking it out of the park.
Yep.
Right? Dungeons and Dragons had a female warrior, right? And a male bard.
Yeah.
It knocked it out of the park. It was funny. It was good. Nobody questioned whether or not Michelle Rodriguez should have been a barbarian, right?
Right.
So what I'm saying is that you can do powerful women right.
Sure you can.
Or you can do it wrong. And what you've done with these stories that are very nostalgic, that's the problem.
Right.
Is that with Snow White, it's about Snow White.
Right.
But if you take Prince Charming out of it,
which you have.
Right,
He's not even Prince Charming in the movie.
Have, but what I'm saying is when you remove that element, right, it's not Snow White anymore.
Right. But the thing is, this is a story that everybody has already seen.
Right.
So now you're wholesale changing something that everybody's already seen and already has an attachment to.
Frozen did well because no one had ever seen it.
Right, exactly. You could tell whatever story you want in Frozen because you made that up. It's not, a classic.
Or even if it is, like, you can take classics that aren't mainstream.
Right. Yeah,
and
if they're less known, sure.
You can do whatever you want with them. But as soon as you start warping classics that are in, pop culture, Pinocchio, Little Mermaid, even to a lesser extent, looking back, like Beauty and the Beast and all that shit, it doesn't work.
No, but the problem is you could have done it when you did the first one, and you might have gotten away with it because it was still original.
Well,
because
the only thing they got away with in Beauty and the Beast was LeFou was gay.
Right.
Right. That was it.
Right.
And then otherwise it was shot for shot.
But now, how many of these failures are you going to put out? And people keep telling you, this isn't what we want. Stop doing this. And yet they keep on putting it out. And then it fails. And then they have the same thing. You're a racist. You're a misogynist. You don't like the... Nope, we keep telling you.
But
we
the
don't
thing
want this shit.
Is that instead of saying, well, we, what did we change? Well, we did a race swap or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we also changed the core story, which changes the characters and makes them into different people.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, I mean, if you sit there and say, well, we did a race swap, so Snow White no longer is Snow White.
Well, she's still Snow White because that's her name.
But no. But I'm saying that based, her skin actually matters. Her skin tone actually matters in the story.
Sure,
it's part of it. That's where her name comes from.
They reference it, right? I mean, that, but whatever. You can explain that away.
Okay, but I'm just saying. But it is something that you did.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You've now Prince Charming.
It's an odd change to make.
Prince Charming is gone. The seven dwarfs are gone.
Right. You're removing everything.
So anything about Snow White and the seven dwarfs is gone.
Right.
Gone.
Right.
So, okay, so this is you creating your own movie based upon an existing IP.
Right. It's the same. It's the thing we've seen over the past 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
They take beloved IPs, Witcher, Scooby-Doo, whatever,
mm-hmm.
and they create their own story and just take the names, hijack the names and the character names,
right?
And ultimately it makes the whole universe weaker,
right? And then and go through all that and name ones that have been successful. It's just ridiculous.
It's crazy. So do I think that Disney selling to Apple is a good thing? No. And that's the thing is like it's not.
No, it's not a good thing.
Now Apple's going to own 60% of the market share. And the thing is that and I've said before we wrap it up, I think Elon Musk is a fucking idiot.
Sure.
Right? And I think this is very poignant because he has his fingers in too many pies.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't diversify yourself to that level and be good at everything.
Right.
No one can.
No.
It's the same thing with Disney. You can't own... It's very difficult to own fairy tale properties, superheroes, space adventurers, and do all of that well.
Right.
Because they are different tones, it's different personalities, but what you're doing is you have one leadership guiding the ship, and all of the stories in all of those different universes are starting to look the same. They have the same message.
Right.
And everything becomes vanilla pudding.
Right. But then you also put in charge of those individual properties someone that thinks exactly the way you do.
Right. But
so there's never anybody that's going to change anything.
Right. The thing is that you have multiple genres. You have sci-fi, you have adventure, you have fantasy, you have, Disney fairy tale that are all telling the same story, the same message, the same tone. And people didn't buy into any of it. So everything is failing because it's all the same.
Right.
So instead, if Disney didn't own all of these companies and you had independent people making these movies with different voices,
right, then you'd see a ton of different.
Look at Dune, right? Dune's great. Dune's great sci-fi. Because it's not made by Disney.
Right.
Which Disney shouldn't be doing sci-fi.
Right. And that's why Barbie is the success it is, because it was done by Warner Brothers.
Right. Well, and Mattel, too.
Yeah, well,
right?
Obviously, yeah.
Right. And that's the thing, is that you can help fund, right? Because that's what Warner Brothers is doing. They're making the movie. They're really just throwing up some cash.
Sure.
And
they're distributing it. Yeah.
But it's Mattel's property.
Sure.
And you get the people from Mattel in there, just like with Hasbro and Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
Like they had a voice.
Right.
So you get a different group of people telling a story, and it comes off as totally different.
Right.
But with Disney owning the lion's share of the market, if the story that you're trying to tell fails in one genre, it's going to fail in all of them.
Right.
And we're seeing that, and now we have sci-fi, adventure, fantasy, fairy tale movies all coming out too much in mass, streaming TV shows that are all pushing the same message with the same tone and the same cast of characters.
And the same visuals.
And it's failing.
Yes.
It is failing.
Failing miserably.
That's the thing, is like these corpos got to go, man.
Yeah.
That's what the real...
The independent creators have got to take back the creative process. And they're not. It's all corporate
of it is,
run.
Right, is that Teddy Roosevelt, Republican hardcore, was busting up monopolies, trust buster. We don't do that anymore. We're just letting them get bigger and bigger. And the thing is, if they could do it well, I wouldn't say it's just,
wouldn't matter.
But they can't. No one can.
No.
So I'm sitting here going like, oh, shit was better when everything was independent.
Right.
It really was.
No, it was, because everybody had distinct voices. Everybody wanted to differentiate themselves from their competition.
Right, and the thing is that if you didn't like the Barbie movie, you could go see a Marvel movie, or you could go see a sci-fi movie, and you would get a different experience from those things.
Right.
And now, none of that exists. Fox is owned by Disney. Disney owns all of it.
Yeah, they own far too much at this point. Far too much of the IPs that matter to the majority of people.
The thing of it is it's the same deal with Amazon. It's the same. Look at how Lord of the Rings failed with them.
Yeah, but at least they have limited properties. Disney has too many of the IPs.
Well, except Amazon just bought the MGM catalog.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying, is that when you look at Amazon, right? Amazon is a fucking... They do cloud computing, which is where they make all their money, by the way.
Sure.
And they got the Amazon website. That should be all that they do. But instead, now they have a movie service. They're getting into pharmaceuticals. That's insane.
Right.
You're going from being a company that does one thing really well to being a multi-conglomerate that does 100 things just kind of shitty.
Right.
It's just wild.
It is.
I don't know. What do you guys think? We'll wrap this one up and put this one to bed. I'm getting all flustered. What do you got going on, Jim?
Just drawing.
Yeah.
Every week, like I said, check out the socials, stop by, say hi.
We gotta
take
get you
a look.
On Threads.
Gonna get on Threads. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, look for me on Threads this week.
There you go. All right, guys. So that's episode 64 of The Corner. CatalystCrafting.com is the main website. Catalyst Creations NH is the Etsy store. Grooving on that. Doing well.
Absolutely.
We got the T-shirts back up and running. I'm rocking the Mortal Kombat shirt.
Looks great.
Thank you, sir. We started an Indiegogo,
Yep.
so if you want to help us out with that, you get some good stuff, some cool loot you can score, and it helps. It helps the business.
Exactly.
But what do you guys think? Are you mind blown about aliens? Are you indifferent? How do you feel about that? Do you think it's cool that Sound of Freedom is astroturfing? What are your thoughts on Barbenheimer? And how do you feel about Snow White and the 7 magical creatures? Let us know in the comments. All right, crew. Catch you on the next one.